Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me for today's special episode, as today we are reviewing another set of figures from one of my all-time favorite customizers. Now, for anybody who is tuning in for the very first time, as you go through any of my backlog of videos, one of the things that you will notice is that I'm very keen on giving shout outs to a lot of people that I buy from. That includes certain sellers, certain customizers. I do a lot of review videos, and a lot of the time, yes, those review videos do circle around major brand figures such as Hasbro toys, grapplers, and gimmicks, zombie sailors, heels and faces, Chala toys, or aka Epic Toys, your Wrestle Something wrestlers from the figure collection store. Okay, you got figures that come from Rush Collectibles Ringmasters. You got figures that come from Official Premier Wrestling. And you got figures, of course, that come from the Mattel Retro line. So I will always sit back and do review videos on any new figures that come up from any of these companies. But unlike many people out there, I will also do review videos on specific customizers that I buy from, especially if I buy from them on a regular basis. Well, today, guys, we are going to take a look at some new figures that I got in from Robert Jackson, someone who I've probably made a dozen or so videos about in the past. Why? Because I get so many of his custom figures. I've always said, when you look at these figures from name brand companies, right? You look at some of these guys that customize from home, and yeah, you know what? They're just doing this for fun. They're not trying to make this, turn this into a legitimate business or anything. But when you have guys like me who know the quality of their work, we will reach out to them and we will requisition certain figures from them. We'll come up with game plans, ideas of figures that we want to be customized. And they do some of the most amazing work. They may not have the greatest tools in the world, simply working as individual handcrafted pieces of art out of their basement, out of their garage, out of their kitchen. But I will take their figures and compare them to any of these brick and mortar stores any day of the week. So today we will look at the new figures from Robert Jackson. Alright, so as we move on to the first figure I want to look at, before we do so, I do want to show this particular magazine. Now, this is July 1990. Now, what is so important about the July 1990 magazine that we need to show this off prior to looking at this first figure? Well, I kind of want to give you a general idea of the color scheme and design of this next figure. And first one, we are going to look at Series 3, 1986, WWF LJN. We do have the Macho Man Randy Savage LJN. And trying to find the right... Here we go. Kind of gave you a full-on glance. Now, this is one of those figures that when I first purchased this guy, he had like one of those, what was it? It was a white and purple look. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the same look he had when he squared off against the Ultimate Warrior. And I think 89, what was it? Was it Royal Rumble? I mean, all these major events, they kind of like clash together, so I can't really remember where they all come from, but I remember him dropping like 5 elbow drops on the Ultimate Warrior, and he still kicked out, and he ended up losing the matchup, and then Cher Martel at the end of the matchup whooped his behind. And even as a kid, I remember watching that match because the events at that led up to one of the most touching scenes in WWF history. Featured Elizabeth jumping out of the crowd, running down the aisle, jumping in the ring, whooping on Sherry. And watching Macho Man and Elizabeth kind of come together, embrace, him lifting her up onto his shoulder, I swear to God, I watched that, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so. It brought a grown man to a shed a tear nearly, man. That was still a very touching and emotional moment after all these years, decades later, and that still tugs at the heartstrings, man. One of the most beautiful moments in wrestling history. And yeah, so Rob, he did a brand new paint scheme on the figure, and it is absolute killer. And again, I did want to show off that magazine because it does kind of allow you to kind of see where he's coming from with this particular idea. Now, you will also notice the arm positioning. Not so much with the right arm, but that's fine. I've always said as long as one arm was playable, it's a serviceable figure. Now, you take a figure like this, and yes, this figure will be part of the My Favorite LJN tournament because that LJN tournament is still in round 1. So any new additions can still be included in this tournament. A figure like this is definitely capable of winning that tournament. This is an absolutely pristine figure, incredibly well done. Playable, looks great, name recognition, everything you're looking for in an action figure. And once this guy comes up in the tournament, all of this will be mentioned once again. So, one of the things that Rob does specifically well, and he takes, I don't want to say bad figures, I want to say plain figures or common figures like Jim Duggan and Jake Roberts, and he turns these figures into something dynamic. So one of the first figures we're going to look at, and we're going to start with Jim Duggan. Taking a Jim Duggan to create Animal Legion of Doom. Now, what I really love about that is not only do you get Animal, yes, you better believe you are going to get a Hawk counterpart as well. Best thing about these guys is he actually sent me figures like this in one of the last batches. It may have actually been the last batch of figures I ever got from him. And that was Legion of Doom in red. I've always been looking for Legion of Doom in blue. And one of the things I contemplated was sending him an original Series 4 Hasbro with spikes and getting those colored black. Getting another set sent to him and having those colored blue. So, I don't know, does something like this replace the need to get those spike colored figures repainted? Now, I've always said Jim Duggan Series 2, just for the sake of the simplicity of the figure, because there's not a lot of color scheme, so there's not a lot going on with the figure. It was very plain, and it's the sole reason why I classify Series 2 Jim Duggan as being one of the worst Hasbro figures ever. But at the same time, I always say that the Series 2 Jim Duggan is also one of the best, most enjoyable, most playful or go-to action figures from the Hasbro line. Perfect play pose, action feature, grip, everything you're looking for. And we kind of look at the paint scheme up close and personal. Yeah. It's absolutely spot on. And then we want to look at Hawk. Yes, sir. Absolutely killer. And I'm excited to always be able to add as many Legion of Doom figures to the collection as humanly possible. Look at the graphics, man. Come on. There's a reason why I put such high esteem for a lot of these customizers. And think about this. There are many brilliant customizers. Like, you get on sites like Facebook as an example, and you see the different LJNs and Hasbros and Remco customizations that these guys come up with. I don't even do business with a majority of these people out there, but the guys I do business with, highly recommend. This next figure we're going to look at, absolutely insane. I've talked about wanting to do a British Bulldog themed episode where we look at all of the different British Bulldog figures that have come out from these different toy lines. 1,000,000%. I feel like this is one of those figures we have to take a look at more in depth as well. Davey Boy Smith has an absolutely fantastic original Hasbro figure. Yes, with the open hands from the Series 4 Hasbro. It's a figure I had as a kid. Absolutely loved it. But you know what? When Rob redid his figure, he did not disappoint. You kind of take that Jim Duggan pose, right? You're not eliminating anything that you got from the original Series 4 Hasbro. You still got a really solid Davey Boy head. You still got the bushiness of the hairdo, which is absolutely incredible. The paint scheme with the UK flag throughout, absolutely immaculate. Okay? As a kid, when I looked at Hasbro Series 1 Hogan, when I looked at the Series 2 Ultimate Warrior, or the Series 4 British Bulldog Open Hands, I had those figures as a kid. I love those figures as a kid. To this day, I still don't really find problems with the open hands for that purpose, because I had so much enjoyment from it as a child. Now, as an adult, yeah, I look at things in a different light. Yes, closed fist is preferential to open hand. Absolutely. You are sitting there, you are pretending that with open hand you're throwing a punch, but sometimes you don't want to pretend, right? You want to be able to throw a punch and know that it's a legitimate punch. That's why fighting pose, especially with figures like LJNs where it's rubber and the body parts do not move, why it's important to have the right pose. So this British Bulldog figure, I don't know if I'm ever going to do a My Favorite Hasbro tournament again. I kind of feel like the figure that already won my first tournament would win again. But sometimes one of the most important things I talk about is it's not necessarily about who wins the tournament. It's about the journey of getting to that end. So figures like this, which I absolutely love, yeah, I could probably see a figure like this making it 6 rounds, maybe even into the semifinals. Heck, maybe he beats one of the figures that made it to the finals and makes it into the finals among one of the last 3 standing. Because I think with the sheer quantity, you're not going to have a last two-man finals. You're probably always going to have a 3-man finals. So British Bulldog is added. Now, when these figures came in, they were bagged up. And when I first saw this figure, I thought, okay, awesome. We got a purple trunks Ric Flair. I'm like, that is killer. Light years better than what we would have gotten with the original Series 6 red Ric Flair from Hasbro. And then I took him out of the package and realized, nope, that is not Ric Flair. Oh my freaking Lord. Guys, Adrian freaking Adonis is Hasbro. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. The adorable one as a Hasbro figure, I swear to God, there are certain LJN figures I've been dying to get as Hasbro. Likewise, there are so many Hasbro figures that I want to be bumped up to LJN rubber form. And to get Adrian Adonis as a Hasbro figure is absolute fantastic. And my wife, she was in the kitchen when I was opening this package about a year ago, maybe 2, I don't remember. During one of the Christmas specials, she came down here and filmed her own personal episode, and I thought that was so funny. And today, it's still one of my favorite episodes, the one that she personally had filmed. And, you know, she doesn't know anything about wrestling or follow wrestling or anything like that. And she was looking at one of my shelves, and she saw, obviously, the paint on Adrian Adonis's face and the eyeshadow, and she's like, somebody gave Captain Pepto-Bismol a shiner. And still one of my favorite lines from my channel. But look at this. The flower themes, all of the boots, the Captain Pepto-Bismol with the shiner. It's fantastic. Do I want purple? Do I want pink? I think bright pink like the Adrian Adonis Aljan. Yes, that would have flown better, but hey, I am not going to complain about purple trunks, Adrian and Adonis, okay? Does it have to be 100% mint to what Aljan came up with? The reality is, if it was going to be a 100% mint, that means pink trunks, that means pink boots with no decorative aspect on the boots. So that means no extra graphics, and I absolutely love these graphics on the boots, okay? I think that to me is probably the best part of the figure. So absolutely no qualms whatsoever. Adrian Adonis, Hasbro, love it. Could not be more ecstatic. And like I said, I was not expecting this package to come in today. I just kind of got back from the VA today, and this package was sitting on the doorstep. Saw if it was from Rob Jackson. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Opened it up, and oh my god, some absolutely amazing figures. This one, before we dive into the Jake Robert-esque body poses, this right here, I'm just going to throw this in just because it's another custom I've been incorporating. Ludwig Borga. Now, I do have an original Ludwig Borga on card. I have an original loose figure as well. And I have at least one, if not two, other customs of Ludwig Borga. But there was, shoot, I don't remember which figure I sent in. But I just wanted another figure. I think I was building like a certain set of figures up together. And I wanted certain Series 11 figures to put together. And you know, Robbie, he set me up. He got me the Ludwig Borga, and look at this. There are certain customizers, when you look at their work, in all honesty, you can't even tell based on the look of the overall figure that they're not original. Now, I think the skin tone, actually, skin tone is pretty decent. It's not actually as bad as some customizers I've seen. I mean, I've accepted some customizers with weird discoloration of the skin. This is actually very close in comparison to a lot of the others. But we're not really looking at the skin. Obviously, it's a custom, so you're not really focusing on getting it 100% perfect. It's the rest of the body, right? It's the rest of the color of the action figure. Does it match up with the original? Which it does, and it does beautifully. And the great thing about this, I believe all of the action features, yep. I think the other one might not work, yeah. So that right arm is weak, or the left arm, but the right arm is solid. And I think all the other actions work on the other figures. I haven't really tried them all, but I think like 90% of these figures have working actions. And I think Ludwig Borga, I think just that one side was probably the only one that didn't have a solid feature. Now the rest of these are Jake Roberts, but this first one I want to look at is probably the first one. No, this is the first one I pulled out of the bag, and it's the one I wanted to look at the most because it was the one that really excited me, kind of standing. It really stood out to me. Arn freaking Anderson, right? So, great thing about this, Arn Anderson, a lot of people really love the Arn Anderson Series 1 Galoob figure. And what sucks is Arn Anderson Series 2 UK exclusive. I still need that figure mint on card. It's one of a few figures I'm missing mint on card. And my Galoob carded figures will be complete. But even got the bald spot. Look at that. Perfect. So, a couple things of interest about this. Number one, if you seen, what was it? I think Grapplers and Gimmicks, if I'm not mistaken. They're coming out with their own version of Arn Anderson, I believe. Yeah, I believe it was the Brainbusters. I know Tully Blanchard, so it had to be Arn Anderson as well. And one of the things I mentioned in the comments section was because people were complaining about, I think, Tully Blanchard like being like super big, you know, husky or whatnot. And I'm like, dude, do not slim that figure down. For the love of God, do not do that. Because then you're going to do what they did with like Paul Roma and Hercules. They're going to create these figures, not Grapplers and Gimmicks, but Zombie Sailors. When they create with their Powers and Glory, they came out with these figures with these super tiny, thin chest or super thin waist. I'm like, you took these great figures and basically ruined them with these thin waist and everything. So I'm like, no, that's terrible. Do not do that. Leave these figures nice and thick. So I like the look of this Arn Anderson figure. It's solid, has a good working action feature. The color is incredible. Okay, now when Random Treasures came out with their Galoob 2-Up of Arn Anderson, this is the color scheme I should have chosen. I kind of screwed myself over when I went with the black and gray color scheme because it really messed up my Galoob 2-Up layout. But man, Arn Anderson, as moving him away from the Galoob and into Hasbro. I mean, I think if Brainbusters were part of WWF for at least another year and a half, he probably would have been part of the original Series 1, maybe even Series 2 at worst, line of Hasbro figures. But he went back to WCW and did get himself a WCW action figure. And that's actually one of the most beloved figures from the WCW line. Not one of my favorites personally, but a good figure nonetheless. Another great figure. Now, not someone that has appeared in WWF or WWE directly. Now, he's part of one of their cast-off or sister companies. I haven't really watched wrestling in like over 25 years, right? So when you talk about like TNA, AEW, all these different businesses that are subsidiaries of WWF/WWE, I don't know anything about those companies, right? ECW, etc. But Sting. More importantly, Surfer Sting. To me, the face of the franchise. To me, Sting will always be the equivalent of Hulk Hogan of WWF. So there was no bigger superstar in WCW, and I keep biting the bullet. I keep saying AWA. It was not AWA. I think the Texas territories, if I'm not mistaken, where Sting, and it may not have been Texas, I don't remember, but Texas, it was definitely Sting and the Ultimate Warrior, aka Dingo Warrior, were tag team partners. And you hear this story a lot. Guys like Legion of Doom or Sting and Ultimate Warrior, etc. Basically, these big muscle heads with absolutely zero credentials as professional wrestlers, but they're brought into the business because they fit the mold with the physicality. But you know what? I never had an issue with any of those guys. I always thought they were all incredible wrestlers. I thought Legion of Doom was sensational, and if you hate on Sting, okay, over the years, there's no doubt that man morphed into one of the most talented superstars ever. And Ultimate Warrior, I don't know, man. To me, he's still my number 2 all-time favorite wrestler, so I can't complain about the Ultimate Warrior. But you hear stories, and it kind of like affects your overall opinion, but that's alright. You know what that guy meant to you as a kid, right? But Sting, I like this figure because he reminds me of Series 1 Salmon Pants Sting from Galoob. Now, Galoob, as you guys know, had 2 variants in 1990 from the Galoob line. You had the Blue Pants variant Sting, And you had what they call the Salmon Pants Sting. Some people might call them pink pants. Some people might call them orange pants. But I think the politically correct term is Salmon Pants. And then once you got into Series 2, UK exclusive, he had black pants. And then, of course, he also had a second figure from the Series 2 release, which was him in all ring attire, or entrance gear attire, excuse me. So, but that was a completely different figure. So, I like that this set of figures included both an Arn Anderson and Sting. Very reminiscent to their 1990s Galoob action figure line. So that was pretty awesome. Once again, look at the different colors of the figure. Incredible. So I'm going to put these last two figures up together because they are basically of the same. And it looks like the right arm on this one's a little bit weaker, but action feature does work. But the look of it is so freaking solid. And we get two different Honky Tonk Man figures. Now, we'll start with Honky Tonk Man Red. Kind of give you up close and personal look as we see the musical notes. It says, shake, rattle. I gotta get up close and personal because I can't read. Shake, rattle, and roll. It just shows you how poor my eyes have gotten over the years, that it's like, well, shoot, man, I'm looking at it through the camera and it still looks blurry. But shoot, look at this. That is freaking killer. I think on my buddy Bone Breaking Action, he had a similar figure. Maybe it was like I think light blue pants of Honky Tonk Man, and I saw that figure on his channel probably 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't know, a long time ago. And ever since I saw that Honky Tonk Man, I'm like, damn, I gotta get myself a Honky Tonk Man with this Jake body, because I absolutely love the Series 2 Honky Tonk Man that Hasbro released. To this day, Honky Tonk Man Hasbro with jumpsuit is probably on my list of top 10 all-time favorite Hasbro figures, especially with with guitar accessory. But I don't know, there's just something special about this particular look that I really enjoyed. So, and it's a custom, so it's not like it's an original, right? It's a backup figure essentially. Now, he didn't put the shake, rattle, what did he say on here? Shake, rattle, roll on the back of this figure, but the red, yes, it does pop a little bit more, but blue is my favorite color, so would I like the blue better than the red? That's a tough call. But I'd have to go with the red one on this one. I think the red, again, it has a little bit of a lighter color. I think it just pops a little bit better. But overall, this was such an absolutely killer haul of figures. Okay. And I could not have been more thrilled to get these wave of figures in. So I am going to try to load these up as close as possible so that hopefully all the figures can be seen at one time. I am not going to include the Hasbro, or excuse me, the LJN Macho Man at the end, but just kind of give you the different figures from Hasbro that came in. Now, I've been talking about the new Galoob tournament. Yes, the Galoob tournament is still my next major tournament that I want to do. I'm obviously not going to have a chance to get that done before this calendar turns, so I'm probably estimating very early 2025. I would love to get it done as early as January 2025, but we might be looking at maybe February or March, hopefully. But it all depends on how many Galoob figures I can get in, how many customs I can get in by that point. Is year 2 of the My Favorite Hasbro tournament coming? It's possible. Do I really see much of a change based on winners? In all honesty, based on what I've seen so far, there's maybe one. I think the Kamala figure, because it's Yokozuna based, is very capable in that regard. But maybe. I mean, I don't know. I still love the Yokozuna figure, but I think there's probably 2 or 3 really good figures that could challenge particularly, but it would be a tough call. So we will see what happens. You know, if I start getting 20, 30, 40, 50 messages from people saying, hey, I want the Hasbro tournament, let's get it done, then yeah, I'll probably put that on the docket for early next year, early to mid next year. But if 1 or 2 people come at me and say, hey, let's get it done, I'm probably, obviously won't consider it as much. So what do you guys think? Is a second My Favorite Hasbro tournament necessary? Based on any of my review videos that I've done for any of the new customs, do you think that any of these could legitimately beat my incoming champion from the last tournament? Let me know your guys' thoughts. In the meantime, if anybody's interested in getting some figures, you want to reach out to Robert Jackson, you know what? I'm sure he'll take commissions, and he'll give you a great deal too. So you're not paying $75 to get a figure done, or $100 to get a figure done. He'll take care of you, so that's the best thing. And you're going to get a great product, great paint. It helps to send him the figures and have him repaint it. That's going to save you a lot of money. That's what I do, and it helps big time. So, but guys, that's my review video for the day. Hopefully this new setup works better than past video reviews. Let me know if you like this one better. If not, I'll go back to the way I was doing things before. But that's it for now, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching, and talk to you in the comments, and see you in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.